Welcome to the Lifestyle Property Podcast. I'm Jamie Greaves, your host and professional property investor. I'm here to bring you insights, home truths and powerful stories about what really goes on in property investment, business and growing your dream lifestyle. Are you ready? Let's get into it. Welcome back to the Lifestyle Property Podcast. Hello there and welcome to episode 14, which is titled Training and Mentorship within Property Investment. And this is a very important topic, and I think it's my most asked question if I was to do a poll. This is what I'm getting into in these recent weeks. So last week I covered, do we need to go full-time in property, and when it's best to and best not to, which is really important. And this has to be my most asked question around training and mentorship. And there's so many questions around this, really, isn't there? So let's get into it. I'm going to pack it full of value. And so where do we start? So should we get training? What are my top tips? What's the right way of doing it? The wrong way of doing it? Well, I want to give a lot of authentic insight into this now for you. Truth be told, I've got a love-hate relationship with training and mentorship within property investment and then within business. Okay, and I'm going to give you all sides of this now. I'm known for going into quite deep, passionate, long answers with my mentees when I care about a subject, and I really care about this one, but I'm conscious that I want to keep the podcast to between 20 and 25 minutes. They're really impactful for you, so I will get stuck into it. So just before I do and give the insights into this, I'll put an asterisk, and I want to be fully transparent, fully open with you guys. So with everything that I do in property, always have been, always will be. I've been a trainer and mentor myself now over the past 3 years, and I love it. I'm really passionate about it. It's the best thing that I do in property. It's the most rewarding. And I help those who want to get involved in my strategy, which is SA and holiday lets and Airbnb, and I help grow their portfolios for them. And I love that. But it's a topic that I know very, very well from all sides of it, both as a mentee as well. And when I started out, and I have business partners who spent fortunes. I'm talking £90,000 on their training and mentoring. So I'm going to give you full insights from all sides of this to help you. So before I go into all the various different insights, I'll start out with my experience when I was coming through the ranks and I was starting out. Did I like it? Did I hate it? Well, when I started out, I hated it because I was treated like a number. And it's I was bombarded with a lot of messages on YouTube and Facebook, and there's a lot of marketing out there. And what I found was no one cared about me as a person. I got pulled into the bigger corporate marketing machines, and I was treated like a number, and everything was an upsell. So, a kind of 2-day would lead to this, lead to that. And there was a lack of ongoing care and support for me. I felt like no one really cared. Well, none of the bigger kind of corporate, should we say. And if there was any ongoing advice or support or mentoring, it was eye-wateringly expensive, more than the deposit on the average UK property house. And that just didn't seem right. Okay, I understand there are vast sums of money to be made in property, but just because of that doesn't mean that trainers should be able to charge what they did. So over the years, I did various bits of training, and then what really helped me was getting a mentor, because it was that guidance and that advice which changed it for me, for sure. But I didn't want to be part of the problem. So when I became quote unquote successful, I was asked time and time again, would I go and train for other people? Would I mentor for them? But I didn't want to be part of the problem. But then I think 3 years ago now, my then mentor changed my perspective on it. Well, why don't you do it your way and do it differently and provide ongoing care and be ethical and get results for people? So that's why now I do provide mentorship. So when I say that I love and hate it, I hated it early on, but now I absolutely love it. And I have a mentor myself now, and it's something that I provide. So that's me. Okay, that's my experience in the past 5 years. But let's get stuck into honest insights for you. Okay, so these are the different kind of scenarios that might happen. So option number one is whether should you just go in, get involved without any training, without any mentoring, and just go and do it. Go and make your own mistakes and figure it out. Should you do that? Well, the answer to that is definitely no. Okay, I can help you with that one. Okay, so we don't know what we don't know. So in property investment, what we don't know can cost us thousands or hundreds of thousands. Not only that, but think about the opportunity cost. So when we don't know what we're doing in terms of looking for deals and what areas and how to do finance and all those aspects of it, then we're going to lose millions of opportunity costs there, deals that we could have done, should have done, but we didn't do. So any of the horror stories that you've heard out there, they're true. There are horror stories out there, and if we dive in without any training and mentoring, then it can lead to that. So unfortunately, I've heard many horror stories. So in my area of SA and holiday lets and Airbnb, I know people who've taken on rent to SAs early on, where actually SAs were not allowed in the building, and just became, or even when they're taking on a deal, but that deal never existed. Okay, and that relationship was it's essentially fabricated. And they've lost all their input money and their furniture, and they had to give keys back. And what's not talked about enough is when people lose money, when we lose money, I know it happened to me, that has an impact on our health, on our mental health, on our appetite, on our everything. So yeah, we don't want that. And then also just, I suppose, in other sectors, it happens across the board. So people who, you go and buy the wrong property in the wrong area, and it causes headaches and stress and or not realising we're not making money. So, buying the wrong property, and this is across the strategy, but again, in my FSA and Airbnb and holiday lets, if we go and buy the wrong property in the wrong area, then we're just not going to make money. Or if we go and, or we'll just break even every month and not understand why we're making any bloody money here. So I think we all know that. I think that is quite common sense, isn't it? That we know we need to go and learn. We know that knowledge is very, very, very important, and we want to stand on the shoulders of giants and understand what to do and what not to do, and shortcut that process. And I don't think I'm revealing any kind of amazing insights there by making it clear that knowledge is important. I think we all know that. Especially anyone who's going to tune in into a kind of professional development podcast like this one. I think you're already on that journey, which is good. And the opportunity cost point is really big. When if we it's the deals I haven't done which have cost me the most money because I didn't have the right knowledge for them. And now as I'm getting more and more and more, God, the profit levels are going higher and higher and higher. So it's really important. We know that. However, and this is the balance that we need to get to. However, what we don't want to do is jump in and overpay, okay? Now, I know people who spent 50, 60, 70, 80, and I've even known someone to spend more than £100,000 on their training in property investment. And in my experience of everyone that I've ever known in this sector, that does more harm than good. Okay, it's overwhelming. We don't want to learn about 15 different strategies in a really in-depth manner, because how we go and stack, source, finance, raise, systemize a Airbnb is different to a HMO, is different to a commercial conversion. So we don't want to do that. It's too overwhelming. We definitely don't want to jump from course to course. Okay, and now I know it's hard because we're given all these. There's a lot of fear and greed out there where we think we should. We don't think we know enough. And the big marketing pulls us in. And if I can, hopefully this podcast is helping you with this. But I can't watch my words here in terms of, because in case you've got kids in the car when you're listening to this, I don't want to use that kind of curse language. But there's a lot of poo-poo marketing out there, shall we say. Because property education is completely unregulated. Okay, and it needs to change. There's some good voices out there pushing for this, and I'm one of them. It's not right, and the worst practices come from the highest spending marketing budgets of the biggest companies in our sector, and it's not good. It's just not good. It needs to be called out, okay? Because they're essentially NLP marketing, pushy pyramid schemes, and everything's an upsell. So they'll push you into a room for one day. They'll teach you 15 different strategies on that day, and then they'll push you to do at least half a dozen courses on this strategy and that strategy. And the half a dozen courses will be 2 days long each. And then after the 2 days, your head will be full of some good knowledge there, but you'll have no ongoing access to support of anything else. So then you'll sign up to the mentorship and coaching, and that's even once a month. And then before we know it, we're 20, 30, £40,000 deep, and we don't have a deal, and we're overwhelmed. and then we have to start from scratch. And that what I've just mentioned there is the likelihood of what happens to a lot of people. Okay, and I'm hoping to be a voice for good here. So there's some awful marketing techniques, and we want to avoid them, guys. So we want to, we don't want to get pushed into those marketing machines. So if I just give an example here, okay, of what to look out for. I'm not going to mention names because it's not a nice thing to go through for anyone. I know of a lovely gentleman. I spoke to him a few months ago. He came to me too late, unfortunately, but I've tried to help him out. He was a lovely guy, and he got frustrated by his own lack of progress in getting deals secured. And one night, he was scrolling. I think it was on YouTube, and he ended up spending up to a £15,000 training course. 15,000, 15,000. But there was no cooling off period. So what happened with this one is once you signed up to it, they emailed you a bit of content that was outdated. And as soon as you've done that on one of their hidden terms and clauses, point 11.4, however, there was no cooling off period. Once you've got the content, there was no refund. Now that should be illegal. That is criminal. In any other walk of life, we have a cooling off period. You buy anything whatsoever, we are protected as consumers. But all of a sudden, within property investment, it doesn't exist because there are clauses, and we want to avoid these practices. Okay, we want cooling off periods. You want to be calm. You don't want to just jump into anything. You want to take your time. Okay, now that's not a nice position to be in, because this lovely individual, he didn't tell his wife what he'd done. £15,000. They didn't have that kind of money. That went on a credit card. Okay, now the issue with that is, there's so many issues with that, but my issue with it is the lack of calm and time and choice to, no cooling off period is not acceptable. But also that there was no coaching or mentoring given in that package. Okay, so they didn't care about the people. But basically, it was a series of online training videos recorded some years ago, and that was it. And it makes me sick, and it's a reason that I've continued to grow my trading businesses within property, because I hit my kind of financial freedom, but I want to give back and I want to help, because it's just not right. You treat it like a number, and in their head, it's not their problem. They it's not good. It's not good. So I'm hoping that by revealing this and by giving these insights, it helps you avoid them. And if you've got any friends or family looking to get involved in property, now I think a number of my podcasts will be really, really helpful to them. But if you're going to send any podcasts over to them, I'd send them this one, because if you can stop people make these mistakes early on, then we're going to save people a lot of overwhelm, a lot of anxiety, a lot of lost money, because that 20, 30, 40, 50, 80,000 pounds can be put to really good use. Okay, so, and it's no slight on any individual who has done these kind of heavy NLP marketing pyramid scheme machines, because there's very intelligent people that get pulled into them, including myself. So I'm not a very intelligent person. I'm, normal individual, but I got pulled into it. Okay, and I didn't have the foresight. I didn't have the calmness just to do it correctly in terms of finding individuals that would care for me from the outset. I got pulled in by the big marketing. It happened to me, and it happened to a lot of people that I know. Okay, so what should we do? I've covered my experience of property, and I've covered, what not to do. So we don't want to go in blind, but we don't want to get pulled into the big marketing machine. So if I ended the podcast now, it would be a case of, okay, well, what the hell do I do, Jamie? What are you telling me here, mate? Well, it's really clear what to do. Okay, it's really, really clear. And my Lord, I wish I knew this 5-6 years ago, because it would have saved me a lot of money and heartache and stress. So this is the guaranteed best thing to do. Firstly, go out there and get as much general knowledge on all of the strategies and ways of growing your wealth and getting your dream lifestyle in property through cheap or free or inexpensive things, okay? So I might recommend that you listen to podcasts, but you're already doing that. Books, podcasts, YouTube, however you like to learn. And get insights into everything, Okay. And that's all we have to do. We only have to get a baseline knowledge on everything. Because once we understand buy-to-lets and service accommodation and holiday lets and HMO and flips and commercial conversions, once we've got that, we can then choose one strategy for us. Okay, choose one thing to focus on. I've already covered it on various of the podcasts and tips before, and this impacts how we get our training and mentoring. Choose one. Okay, so what are you going to focus on? What's your strategy going to be? You don't want loads, you want one. And as mentioned in the podcast previously, it's really good to start in a high cash flow strategy because it's going to give you time and financial freedom far quicker, and then it will allow you to progress in your investment portfolio. So choose one. And once you've chosen one, then you can go and get focused training and focused mentoring within that area. And I promise you that will get you results without spending 30, 50, 80,000 pounds, okay? Because we want someone who's done what you're looking to do. So if you decide to go and do HMOs, then I recommend that you find someone who you like, who you can trust, who has built a HMO portfolio. And it's that Goldilocks whereby you don't want to be the first person that they're trained or mentored, because any learned skill you learn over time. So you don't want to be there first because they're not going to know how to train and coach you properly. But you don't want them when they're too big. And this is the advice for your trainers, your mentors, but also your cleaners, your management companies, your everything in property. It's Goldilocks, balance, not too big, not too small. Because if they're too big, they're not going to care about you. You're going to be a number to them. You're going to be in a room of 100 people. You're going to be packed full of information in 2 days and then confused and overwhelmed. But if you go to someone who's too new and too raw, they're unfortunately, they can't teach you what they don't know, and you want them to have made a lot of mistakes so that they know what gets most results for you. So find people who have got training and mentoring experience, but make sure that they're actively investing and have done what you're looking to do. And it's really important that they're actively still doing what you want to do, because everything changes. Rules, regs, markets, finance change. Okay? And then make sure that they offer you some kind of ongoing support, ongoing advice. That is as important, or if not more important, than the actual training. So the training is the knowledge. We want the knowledge, but you want that ongoing support either on a one-to-one basis or in a small group format. If it's a group, make it a tiny group so you get to know everyone really well. Don't join something if it's 100 plus people and there's people joining and leaving, because it's not going to work. Okay? Then I promise you, if you get that knowledge through the training, and then you get that support and that guidance and then advice through the mentoring, and you take the action from their blueprint. So if they tell you to do things and give you homework and blueprint and you follow that action, you'll then get your results. And I'd go as far as saying, if you follow that action and you have the right mindset and you follow the right blueprint, you're guaranteed for success. Okay. Daniel Hill of Property Entrepreneur says that, who I recommend really highly, says that success is really predictable. Success or failure is really, really predictable. And it is in this world. You know, I can absolutely predict your level of success depending on where you go and get trained and mentored. It really has a big impact. Okay, so I hope these honest insights help, because this is the podcast I needed 5 years ago. I really needed to hear this because it would have helped me loads. I didn't understand why. I thought it was just the only thing that would happen, like 2-day courses and then you pack full of information, then you go to a room of 100 people. I thought that was the only way, but it isn't the only way. Okay, there are better ways going. So just to conclude then, we don't want to jump in head first without getting proper formal training and mentoring, because it's going to cost you. You'll make mistakes that would otherwise you'd have avoided. You'll lose money and it's going to slow you down massively. But don't overpay. Don't overpay and don't do too many courses. You want to do one, nail it, get results from it. And then if you decide to then go into something else, no problem. Do that one. Focus on that one. Okay, so a bit like the a previous podcast, I think it was episode number 9, Goldilocks, in terms of Goldilocks was around don't just jump into deals blindly, but don't do over analysis. Well, your training and mentoring is the same. So you want to get knowledge through training and support through mentorship. Okay, so we don't want to go in blind, but we don't want to overdo it. So be like Goldilocks. Okay, and it's a really good mindset to carry through your investment portfolio. Okay, as you grow and grow and grow, be like Goldilocks. Okay, So how that help? And while I said I love and I hate it, I suppose I hated how I was treated, and now I love it because I'm able to be the change I want to see in the industry. So if you can get around good people, it can be a beautiful thing, and stand on their shoulders, stand on the shoulders of giants. There can be a shortcut to your success. I don't want to just vilify training and mentoring, because it's paramount. My mentor 3-4 years ago changed it all for me, changed everything. So I hope that helped. I speak from the heart. I speak with experience. I speak with insights, and I want to help people, because I went through a rough time early on in when I was growing my portfolio. It was lonely. It was toxic. I was losing money. No one cared for me. And I made a personal vow to make sure that I would help people. When I reached a level of success, grew my portfolio, I wanted to help people. And that's exactly why I've started the podcast. So I hope today's deep dive into training and mentoring helped you. Have a lovely week. It's getting cold here in the UK now, so I like to record these live. It's November 2024. We had a budget a couple of weeks ago. Lots happening in the market. I'm actively still investing and growing my portfolio in this market, which I'll maybe cover in a different podcast. So it's a really exciting time. Loads of deals to be done. Hope today's podcast helped you, and I'll see you next week for another insightful podcast. Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Lifestyle Property Podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, I'd love it if you could leave us a review so we can reach and help more people. I'll also be giving one person who leaves a review a free family holiday to one of our luxury holiday lets. Thank you, and see you next time.